Alright, in this video we're going to discuss some properties of definite integrals and some theorems that correspond to definite integrals that will help us both in understanding a definite integral and also in calculating definite integrals. So this handout comes from a Deborah Hughes Hallett textbook on calculus, and you can find it in our course materials. So I'm going to kind of follow the same structure just to give you some of these theorems. So the first one is telling us that the integral from a to c of f of x plus the integral from c to b of f of x, we want to know what that equals. So I'm going to use the diagram on the right side to draw what this is giving us. So the integral from a to c, the definite integral from a to c, I'm going to shade in the figure on the right, because that would be the area between our function f of x and the x-axis from a to c. And to that we're adding the integral from c to b, which is the area that I'm shading now between our function and the x-axis from c to b. And so we can see that this is going to give us a total that can be measured by the integral from a to b of f of x dx. So we can just combine those two areas into one area, and we can shade that, for example, in yellow. And so the integral on the right side of our equation gives us the entire area in yellow between our function f of x and the interval from a to b on the x-axis. Okay, our second property is the integral from a to itself. So what's happening, I'm going to try to explain this again in our figure on the right, is that we're trying to find the area beneath f of x, between f of x and the x-axis, but only from a to a. Well, from a to a, there's no area, right? There's no area. There's no width of a rectangle here. So this would just be equal to 0. Okay, our third property is asking us to explore the integral from b to a. So this time what we would be doing is we would be starting at b and trying to find the area under f of x from b to a as we accumulate area in this direction, from right to left. Usually the way that we define the definite integral was from left to right. So what happens when we do it this way? Let's recall what our definite integral comes from. It comes from the limit of our Riemann sum, where we we partition into rectangles, and the width of each rectangle, delta x, well, if we're integrating in this direction, delta x was the length of the interval, which we calculate as b minus a over the number of pieces that we're dividing into, and then we multiply that by a function height, either at the left endpoint, right endpoint, or wherever we decide to sample the function. Now, when we integrate instead from right to left, delta x, the length of our interval, will be the length a minus b over n. And if we compare it to b minus a over n, that will be the opposite, exactly the opposite of b minus a over n. Because if you distribute negative through b minus a, we get a minus b. And so we should expect that if we integrate from right to left instead of from left to right, our integral will be the opposite. So the value of our area will be the opposite of what we get if we integrate it from left to right. So here we would write the integral from b to a of f of x dx is the negative of the integral from a to b of f of x dx. Okay, our next one is a little bit difficult to sketch, but it really comes from those properties of sigma, the summation property of sigma, because recall that the definite integral is really just the limit of a Riemann sum expressed using sigma notation. So this property number 4 is an additive property, which tells us that we can separate, it's a sum property, right? We can separate the sum when we're adding f of x plus g of x into two integrals, the integral from a to b of f of x dx plus the integral from a to b of g of x dx. And we can do the same when we're subtracting. And this is because since the integral is defined as a limit of a Riemann sum, and Riemann sum is expressed using sigma notation, and sigma notation has these linear properties where we can separate a sum or a difference, and we can also factor out a constant, which brings us to the next property of the definite integral. Here we have the integral from a to b of c times f of x dx, where c is a constant. And again, we can factor out that c because we had the same property with sigma. And since the definite integral is defined using sigma, we can use that property. So these are the linear properties of the definite integral that are consistent with the properties for sigma notation. Now we also have a couple of comparison properties that may come in handy as we work with the definite integral. Number 6 here tells us that suppose that f of x is always smaller than or equal to g of x when x is between a and b. So if we take a look at the picture on the right here, you can see that between a and b, f of x is smaller, the values of f of x, the y values are smaller than or equal to the y values of g of x. And what we can say about the integral here is that if this is the case, I'm going to sketch the integral from a to b of f of x dx. That will be the area underneath the function and between and above the x-axis. So this integral from a to b of f of x dx, well, notice that since we have this relationship between the two functions, the integral from a to b of g of x dx will be all of this area. And so it has to be, if g of x is bigger than f of x, and all the y values are bigger, then the integral from a to b of g of x dx must also be bigger than the integral from a to b of f of x dx. So this inequality will hold. And then our final property here is, let's suppose that our function f of x is kind of sandwiched between two values. Little m, is a lower bound for our y values of f of x, and capital M is our upper bound for our y values of f of x. If this is the case, we can say that the integral from a to b of f of x dx, which I'm sketching on the right, that is the entire area between our function and the x-axis, that must be bigger than the integral from a to b of m, lowercase m. But that's really just the area of a rectangle because m is a constant. So on the lower end here, we can write, well, the area of that small rectangle that I shaded in red, that area is m times the length of along the x-axis is b minus a. And so this must be less than or equal to our area underneath f that I shaded in blue from a to b of f of x dx, which then must also be smaller than the area below capital M and the x-axis that I'm shading in green. And we can express that with capital M, the height of the rectangle, times the width of the rectangle, b minus a. And this inequality is going to come in useful when we prove the fundamental theorem of calculus in a couple of videos. So here are some initial properties of the definite integral that will be useful as we learn how to calculate definite integrals.